Well, good afternoon. Obviously, disappointing loss on Saturday. After looking at the tape numerous times, both sides of the ball, we had plenty of opportunities to come out of there with a win, and we didn't. To give Montana credit, I thought they played an exceptional second half, and in fact, I visited with Coach Stitt this morning, and great environment, great college football game, and give them credit. They made a few more plays down the stretch than we did. That being said, we've got to be able to turn the page and move forward as a football team. We'll get together today, kind of go through some of the things that we saw as errors, some of the things that we saw that were positives, and the first thing I'm going to address the guys and tell them is as coaches, we are as big a responsibility in this loss as the players are, probably more so. We got to do a better job coaching. We got to do a better job being organized on the sideline. Got to do a better job in a number of areas, putting our guys in position to be successful. And then I already talked to Coach Kramer. They had a great workout this morning, and the guys are stung pretty good by the loss. But we have some adversity for the first time early on in the season, and I think our guys will respond. So the other thing I wanted to quickly address is we made an addition to our staff last week, really, in Hank Jacobs. Hank, we have a new position thanks to Matt Larson. We have a director of recruiting position now, and we put Hank in that position, and it's so critical for us to have that so that we don't have to pull staff members out of a meeting to visit with the family or to organize a recruiting visit or an unofficial visit. As you guys know, the recruiting is changing so much, and I know we've got a number of commitments already for the 2016 class, and the interesting thing is of many of those guys that are committed, and obviously we can't talk about any names, but all those guys visited this summer. And Hank was, before he was in that role, he was responsible for organizing every one of those trips, getting the families set up with professors and things like that on unofficial visits. And it allowed our staff to continue on and coach during the month of July and August. And Hank's going to be an integral part. And then for Hank's position as the offensive intern, as you guys knew late in the summer, we hired Josh Cattell. And so Josh will take over Hank's responsibilities, and Hank will oversee the role of our recruiting efforts now. And that's really going to help Coach Gazer, who was the recruiting coordinator. He'll still have that title, but Hank will work directly with Nick. So I'll open up for questions.
Did you analyze, Chris, the series in which you guys ran once and passed twice, allowing them to have a little bit more time at the end of the game? Did you analyze that series with Tim, and what's your thoughts on it?
We analyzed pretty much every series of the game. In hindsight, Tim wishes he would have run the ball one more time. If we'd have gotten maybe a yard or two more on first down and gotten it into a 2nd and 5, I'm pretty positive he would have. But obviously we'd have liked to have taken more time off the clock. But that was the call that we made, and we felt it was the best at the time. And obviously it didn't give us the best situation there. But hey, we're gonna learn from all the situations.
Coach, can you talk about what happened, what you saw at the end of the game with regards to Chase and the fan on the field?
Yeah, I didn't see anything personally. I ran out to try to find Coach Stitt, didn't see him, talked to a couple of their assistants, congratulated them, and left the field. And I didn't hear much more about it till later on that evening. And fortunately for me, Matt Ince, who I trust with my life, saw the incident happen and said that he believed that Chase didn't do anything wrong other than was trying to exit the field, and this fan kept coming up to him, and then obviously the video proved that, and that was one of the things Coach Stitt called me about today, to apologize, and that their security didn't do a better job of keeping their fans off the field, and he thought Chase did. This is the head coach of Montana saying, please apologize to Chase for me, he did nothing wrong.
Ran 4 guys like you said you would. Did you see any separation in the running game?
There's some things that some guys do a little better than others. For starters, I thought King Frazier played a dynamite football game. I was really pleased with King. He ran it hard. He ran it with authority. I think Lance did some good things. We've still got to find out a little bit more about Bruce. It was his first game, but we will moving forward. And then Chase is just so versatile, and whether he played fullback, he played tight end, he played tailback, he played wide receiver. He did it all, so he's always going to have a spot for us.
Can you just kind of On King Frazier, the transferring in from Nebraska, adjusting to the FCS level in and of itself, then playing behind, John Crockett last year, now stepping up into his role this year.
Well, we knew a lot about King. I recruited King all through high school, and he ended up choosing Nebraska over North Dakota State. So it's not like we didn't know much about him, and we had a great relationship with him. In fact, his other school he was looking at was Southern Illinois, and Randy Hedberg was recruiting him. So he's not a typical transfer for us. He was one of the guys that we looked at all through high school. Him coming in here and having to sit behind John, being a transfer, I know is difficult, but I think he learned an awful lot from John. And then I think he got stronger this summer. We're always going to worry and work with King on his flexibility, but he continues to do the yoga, continues to do the things that Jim asked him to do in the weight room, and he had a great game on Saturday. And moving forward, I don't know if that will warrant 2 more carries, 5 more carries. Every game is going to probably be different on what we're trying to do offensively, but I know our football team gained an awful lot of confidence in King on Saturday.
Carson hurt was ankle, knee. What did he
High
hurt?
ankle. Yep. Yeah.
How's he doing?
He'll probably sit almost the entire week is my guess, and then we'll probably reevaluate it next Monday at this time.
I'm sorry. It affected the running game because you said that after the game that he wasn't able to run. You weren't able to. Did it affect his passing as well?
I think it did. I probably more so than he would have let on, which is probably typical of Carson. I can do it, but I think it did. Being able to plant and stuff and throw. But it was a factor. Obviously, you guys could see in the first half when we have that option of him running the football as well as all the other things that we can do, we become a difficult offense to defend. When that was limited, we became a little bit more predictable.
Was there ever a question and a conversation between you guys to take him out in that one?
Yeah, but probably not till late. Probably early in the fourth quarter. I know I visited with Coach Polisek about it, and then we even got Easton kind of started to get loose, and Carson just got, I can fight through it. I'm going to be okay, which is what you kind of want out of your fifth-year senior that's a captain, and only he knew how bad he was hurting. But moving forward, we've got to have Easton ready to play or Cole ready to play. I don't think that would cost us a game next week. We've had a couple of guys, like Demps may have gotten a concussion. He'll miss a few days. Zach Johnson's shoulder was sprained, but I think he'll be back by middle of the week. I don't think we'll lose anybody more than a few days.
This bye week been maybe a blessing in disguise to have this right now?
Well, it was going to be a blessing no matter what, I think, Dom. Even if Carson did or didn't get injured, is the fact of we were going to learn an awful lot about some of the young guys on the team. And so this bye week will not be our typical bye week, which you usually wouldn't have after one game anyway. We're going to have a pretty aggressive week of practice. I mean, today's the day we're not going to go, other than the fact that they're going to lift and stuff. But we're going to go Tuesday through Friday pretty hard and go some good on good. That's a thing that always late in fall camp you guard against because you're trying to get their legs back and you're trying to get ready for a game. We need some, quote, NDSU, and we'll have a number of periods of that throughout the week.
Coach, considering the offense you played, could you get a good read on your defense, on how they played?
Well, at times, yeah. I mean, one thing about it, and going back and looking at the film, and the thing that I was most pleased about is we played hard. And you'd say, well, you should play hard. Well, you watch a lot of college football games. There's teams that don't play hard. And you watch our guys, I don't care if it was the 92nd snap or the first snap. They are flying around, and they're playing really hard. So if they're giving great effort and playing extremely hard like that, now it's our job as coaches to try to get these guys in a little bit better position, a little bit better reads and keys. But obviously we've got to shore some things up on defense. But in the same respect, I know we're on the right track because of how hard those kids played.
Talk a lot about consistency, using blueprints from previous seasons and experiences you've had. You guys haven't had this early adversity before. What do you call on here? What are you saying to the guys just in this position?
Well, all of us as coaches have had this type of adversity. I mean, so it's not like none of us have ever lost a first game of the season. I've lost the first game of the season on numerous occasions, and so has Randy. But it's just stay the course. That's the biggest thing. We can't overemphasize this enough. We got beat by a really good football team at their place in front of 27,000 fans. And I think our guys handled that situation and environment pretty doggone well. That being said, we made some mistakes. So we'll visit about all those things today. We'll correct those things, and then we're going to wipe that slate clean. And we're going to go out and try to prepare for Weber State. It's not the end of the world, and I know sometimes it feels like it is in Fargo, North Dakota when you lose a football game. But trust me, we've got a pretty good football team, and we're not going to lose these guys by throwing that light on them like, gosh, you guys can't lose a game. Guys, we're going to lose a few games this year. That's life. That's okay. We've got a pretty good football team.
When do you guys start that preparation for Weber State?
Tuesday. Yep. I mean, we'll start it Tuesday. We'll do, like I said, a lot of NDSU, but at the end of practice, we'll start on Weber State.
Coach, Darius Shepard, you told me all through fall camp, really played well. Evaluate how he played. Look like he had a couple of nice receptions on Saturday.
I think he did a nice job. We'll get more out of Shep moving forward. He missed some time in the middle of fall camp there with a hip pointer. Didn't bother him on Saturday. I think he had some mistakes like a Jalen Allison did. But I love the way the kid competed. I love the way Jalen Allison competed. And those guys are going to be really good moving forward this year.
I know played a lot of snaps. Did you envision he was going to be out there as a safety as much as he was, or is that based on maybe Montana's personnel a little bit?
A little bit of both. We thought he was ready from our practice and stuff, and just how he grasped the game, as well as when we put him out there early on. I just watched him in particular, and the stage wasn't too big. That kid flew around. He moved well. I could see him coming off the sidelines. We talked about some things. He came up to me and said, "Coach, I think I messed that coverage up. Let's go through it on the board." We did. He went back out there, and he's an explosive, fast kid that's going to play a lot for us moving forward. I was really pleased with the way Robbie played.
That the defense played really hard. I know the one thing you preached a lot is having the defense play fast and
Yep.
play fast. Do you feel like a lot of the guys played fast, or how would you look at
No,
that?
I thought we played fast. I think we could have played a little smarter at times, but I thought we played really fast. I think our technique was poor at times. That's what we talked about as a defensive staff, that we can shore up some of that technique, and that's things that we've got to work on in practice. But obviously we need to make a few more plays, especially on the football. That doesn't take anybody real intelligent to see. We got to make a play on a football better, and that was the bottom line. Is I thought we had some things designed up really well, and then a 50-50 ball, we got 0 of those. Well, you don't get any 50-50 balls against really good wide receivers. We could have lost by 4 touchdowns in my mind. But our offense made some plays to keep us in it, and then defensively, I thought we settled down in the second half.
Reference to miscommunication between him and Dimitri on the jet sweep on the fumble. Is that a true freshman miscommunication, or how would you characterize
I think
what
it's
happened?
probably a combination of the things. It was a different look defensively that Carson hadn't seen prior to that snap, which, give them credit, I think they changed something. And then maybe it was just miscommunication of Carson wanting to carry it and Dimitri thinking maybe it was being given to him, and that's something that obviously in a critical situation like that, but it did. So it's a good learning experience for Dimitri moving forward. But that was a critical turnover, obviously.
Coach, your thoughts on the announcement last week that the school is going forward with cost of attendance and how this can affect recruiting, everything going forward?
Well, it's a big thing for us, just in the landscape of who we're recruiting against now. And a lot of the guys that we already have commitments from didn't know anything about this coming. But just in general, in hearing our coaches talk to young men out there and saying, hey, we're going to offer you a full scholarship, the immediate thing that comes back on some of these kids is, am I getting total cost of attendance? So I look at it as, take some of those other schools or conferences that we're competing against saying, okay, you got an offer from North Dakota State and you got an offer from School X. Ask those guys if they're giving you total cost of attendance, because we're going to put more money in your pocket. And so those kids are doing that. Even if they don't really know what total cost of attendance is, they're at least asking us, well, up until last week, we were able to say, if there's an FCS school other than Liberty that potentially could do it, we think we could potentially do it. but we don't know how close we are, and that's all we really could say. That being said, I listened to Coach Richmond, and I totally agree with Dave. I never want a kid to choose this school because he's getting an extra 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever the heck it is. It's still got to be the right fit, and they've got to fit our culture, and they've got to fit our program. And so will it help us on some kids? Absolutely. But if a kid tells me, I'm choosing your school because I got total cost of attendance and South Dakota State didn't, I don't know if that's probably the right guy for us.
Expect CJ to play against Weber
You bet.
Saturday?
I think he would have been a factor. Absolutely. He's the best corner in the Missouri Valley Conference. I know he wasn't voted first team all conference, but I'd put him up against any corner in the league. And I was telling the defensive guys, we get one free agent this year. Happens to be the best one in the league, in my opinion, in the defensive backfield. So, you guys saw him running around pregame. I thought the kid moved around pretty well. But I'd visited with Pyatt really the night before in the morning, and it was in the best interest of the young man to sit him that game, and I know it hurt him. But I think this week will be a big week for him conditioning-wise, just getting him back in great shape, which he probably thought he was, but he may not have been there. He'll get in great shape this week, and I envision next week at this time him practicing full go.
Any concern at all that Carson wouldn't play against Weber?
Yeah, we'll have to see how he responds, because I don't want to put him out there in a situation like we did last year at Northern Iowa, and he wasn't able to run, wasn't able to execute our offense the way it needs to be executed. Now, I know Carson doesn't want to hear that, but in the same respect, we got to get Easton and Cole ready to go, and this is a big week for those two guys, because I don't see Carson taking many reps to see how well these two guys can respond, not only because we're going to work some Weber State stuff, but because they're going to get some pretty live bullets coming at them with pass under pressure and blitz period and some of those things from our first team defense. Pardon me?
Is Carson in a boat or anything?
I haven't seen him today.
Person on the move has become such an integral part of your offense. Obviously, we saw that on Saturday. Is there any talking about that, of adjusting that at all, seeing how, it's reassured how vital he is. He's all over. Everybody knows who he is now.
We've got to do what we can to win the football game, and the worst thing you can do, I think, is to tell a guy, hey, you shouldn't be running the ball here, or you got to get down, or you got to, if he runs out of bounds, rather than cutting it back and scoring, we may be having a conversation of why'd you kick so many field goals in the red zone. But instead, he cuts it back and scores on a guy, or runs through the other guy for a touchdown. So where I do feel we're better at this year than we were last year is the next guy coming in, whether that's Easton, whether that's Cole. I don't think we were ready there a year before. This year we are. So we can't our offense is successful because we put the quarterback as the 11th man you have to defend. And that's got to continue to work that way.
Coach, they counted 3 true freshmen that played Saturday. Is there anybody else that you?
The only other one that I see as a potential this week would be Marquise Bridges, and that's somebody that we will probably try to get his reps a lot more this week to see if he's ready. I thought it was a tough environment with the noise when you're the widest guy from the quarterback to be able to get the signal, to be able to get the check, to put him in that situation. But he's another guy that we'll look at to be probably the last one of the 4.